Michael here, and in this video journal I will start the process of closing the box, gluing the finished back and the finished top onto the finished sides. So keep watching. Well, with my top done and the back finished and the sides, it's time to start closing the box. And the way I close the box is I glue the back on first and then I glue the top on. But before I glue the back on, I need to make some reference marks on my top. So I'm going to take the sides and place them on the top, matching up my center lines. Now the process of closing the box is to cut the sides out through the kerfing where the braces that will extend through the kerfing are going to be. And on this X-brace instrument, the major X-brace extends through the kerfings, as does this upper transverse brace. So I'll mark where the sides with the kerfing meets those braces on the inside. The X-brace that extends through to the arm bevel does not go all the way through the kerfing. Just taking a pencil and marked where the braces meet the kerfing on the inside and where the X-brace meets the arm bevel block on the inside. And then I've also drawn just a little outsized line all the way around the body with my pencil. But I'm going to start with the back. Okay, with my back up on some little riser blocks here, I'm going to go ahead and just lightly clamp the body up, marking my center lines. Now that I've got the sides clamped to the back, I can go ahead and mark where my brace locations meet the kerfing on the inside and on the outside. And here on the inside as well. Now I want to go ahead and mark where the brace locations meet the sides all the way around. I'm going to do that with a little blue pencil right here. Well, I've just taken some little sticky notes and placed them around each one of the braces and transferred the line off of the brace to the sticky note where the brace meets the kerfing. Because as I start carving away, I'm going to carve that line away. I've got two little spacing boards here out of rosewood that are the same thickness that I need that brace to be down on the ends, and so I'm just going to place those on there and then final taper this brace down to where it needs to be. And I'll just continue this process all the way around until I get all the braces carved down to about 2.5 millimeters so they'll be able to fit under the kerfing. Well, I've gotten all of my brace ends sanded down to about 2.5 millimeters. Well, they'll fit through the slots in the kerfing. So what I need to do now is go ahead and cut those slots. And I've transferred the lines that I made previously on the sides to the tops and drawn them on across. And now I'm just going to cut down to the depth of the braces, which is about 2.5 millimeters. I've placed a little piece of tape on my saw so I know what my depth needs to be. And I'm just going to go right on each one of these lines and saw down. until I get to that proper depth. Okay, with all of the slots marked off on either side with my razor saw where the braces are going to fit through the kerfing, it's time to go ahead and just route out that little bit. And to make sure I route out the proper section, I'm just going to go ahead and with the pencil and kind of darken in the areas that I need to cut out. Just a little easier to see when I'm routing. I made a little jig to make it a little easier. I'm going to use my Dremel with an 1/8 of an inch downcut bit on it to span the sides so I can route those areas out. And then I'm just going to take some time and route out each of these little areas. Okay, I'm just going to continue on routing out these little channels all the way around until I get them all done. Then I can fit the back in, make sure I've got it where it needs to be, and then start trimming the back reinforcement braces. Well, I've gotten all of my slots cut in the kerfing where the braces are going to fit through, and I've trimmed the back reinforcement seams brace to touch up with the blocks. Yeah. Now that I've got the back fitted to the sides, I want to go ahead and trim the back down a little bit before I glue the back to the sides. So I'm just taking a little blue pencil and I've marked around the outside of my sides to where I need to trim to, and I'll take that over to my scroll saw and I'll trim the sides down to this blue line. That will give me just a little bit to trim after I glue the back to the sides. With the sides completed and the top and the back completed, it's time to close the box. And I'm going to show this as the form that I use to close the box. It's smaller size than the actual outline of the guitar. And I've got a piece of mat board, which is outlined in cork that's about a 1/2 inch tall, that I will place on here. I have a center line down the middle of my workboard. And to keep it from slipping around a little bit, I'll just tape it to the workboard with through these holes that I've cut through it. The back has a 15-foot radius on it, so it's curved. So the cork keeps the back from being pushed totally flat when it's clamped. And I'll line up my center lines there. Will be lined up. Now when I clamp this up, I'm going to use these spool clamps that I've made. So I've just basically cut out a bunch of circles of pine, lined them with cork, and put a rod through the middle of them. And what I'll do is, when I clamp this up, I'm clamping from the bottom of the cork to the sides. So I'm not actually clamping it to the workbench. So this way I don't distort the curvature of the back by clamping it to a flat surface. So the clamps will go all the way around here. Okay, it's time to go ahead and apply some glue and glue this back to this set of sides. Positioning it. Make sure I get my center lines right up there against that kerfing. And line up my center line down here at the bottom. There we go. Now I can start putting on spool clamps. Start down here at the bottom. Well, the back decides to glue up has dried, and I've taken it off the table where I used all my spool clamps to clamp everything together. The next step, though, is going to be to go ahead and trim down some of this excess around the sides before I fit and glue the top on, which will finish out closing the box. And to trim it out, I'm just going to use a little trim router with a bearing bit here. And I'm going to start with some climb cuts. Since the grain runs in this direction and my router bit is turning in a clockwise direction, I want to come down where this grain is here. Okay, I've got it trimmed pretty much flush all the way around. Now I can go ahead and start the process of fitting the top by positioning the top on and marking where the braces are going to go through the kerfing and cutting those locations out. With the sides in the back assembled and the back trimmed to the sides, I've got the top on the radius dish and it's ready to go. The next thing is just to go ahead and mark the brace locations where they're going to meet the kerfing so I can cut the slots out. So I just need to position my back / sides onto my top and line up my center lines on both ends. Okay, now I can go ahead and mark where my brace locations meet the sides. Okay, then I've got those brace locations marked. I'll go ahead and transfer those lines to the top. Now I just want to go ahead and transfer those lines all the way across to the opposite sides, both up here at my upper transverse brace. Now with my lines drawn on the kerfing to saw down, just go ahead and line up a straight edge here and go ahead and saw down. Well, with my Dremel router, with the 1/8 of an inch down cut bit on it, I can now go ahead and route out those areas in between the saw marks. Okay, I've gotten the top fitted to the rest of the body now, and before I actually glue it on, well, two things I want to do. One is I want to go ahead and mark exactly where the outline of the top is on the sides, just lightly with a little pencil here. And then with the blue pencil, I'm going to use the width of the pencil to mark a little bit oversized outline on the sides. Okay. Now I'm just going to take this over to my scroll saw, and I'm going to scroll saw to the outside of this blue line all the way around and get rid of that part of the top that I don't really need right now. Well, I've got the body over here on the assembly board with the top on the bottom, and I've just kind of trial clamped everything just to make sure I've got everything suited properly. And it's time to go ahead and glue this particular box closing up. Well, the final process of closing the box has been clamped up overnight, so it's time to go ahead and take all the clamps off and do the last little thing we need to do, which is trim down the outside of that top. Okay, here's our closed box. Now all I gotta do is trim off this overhang on the top here, and then do some final sandings, and I'll be ready for the next step, which will be installing the bindings. Well, with the flush trim bit in my little router here, I'm going to go ahead and trim the top. And once again, I'm going to start with the climb cut, where the rotation of the bit is being pulled back, where the grain is coming down so it doesn't tear out. And then I'll go all the way around the other direction. Well, I've spent some time sanding down the body to get everything flush all the way around. So I've got my tops and my back sanded smooth to the sides. And the next step will be installing bindings. on both builds. So this is the 3-piece walnut, and this is the East Indian rosewood that I'm also working on at the same time. So these are both ready for the next step, which will be bindings. Well, that concludes this video journal on closing the box. I've gotten both the rosewood and 3-piece walnut boxes closed, and the next step will be starting to do the bindings on both guitars. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the subscription button and subscribe. Notification icon will let you know when I put a new video out. And if you'd like to support the channel, there is a link down below where you can do that. Thank y'all so much who have, and keep watching.